Welcome to Serious Software's e-commerce training series. In today's video, we'll be looking at how to add images and use the online designer for custom artwork. Once inside our e-commerce admin panel, we'll want to expand merchandise and go to products. In today's video, we'll be looking at two sets of products, the white name badge and the series business card. We'll start with the white name badge and look at our static or our standard image options. Once you've opened the product, if you go to Images and Art, you'll see that my product is set to standard, which just means that I'll be using static or marketing type images to promote this product. I won't be using the online designer or the canvas for this particular product. In my example, I do have file upload on here, so I'm kind of leaving this as an open template or an open forum for them to upload the artwork that they would prefer for their name badges. So I've just kind of represented that here in a design file. However, I can add additional images to this for my product carousel. If I click on the click to upload, I'm going to add my name badge material and the name badge example. So I will add those two images, and that will add to my product carousel. Now, if you're more comfortable, you can drag and drop into the designated area, and it will add the images to this area as well. There are a couple of options. I can rearrange my images if I wanted to change what my default image was. I have a little information button here, which would let me give it a title and some alt text to it. And then I also have a delete button. If I want to remove this particular image from my product carousel, I can do that. Now, regardless of whether I have standard or customizable on here, my products carousel is active. So if I do have a customizable artwork and I am using the online canvas, I can still have examples or images of that to display to the customer so they can kind of see what the finished proof is going to be. The second product we're going to be looking at in today's video is our series business cards. Before we go to our image and art tab, it is important to talk about our product attributes here on the first tab because now width and height are going to be required. They are the dimensions that the customer will see on the online canvas. If we come to images and art, we'll see that our toggle button is set to customizable. We're getting a preview of our online example here in the main product menu. We still have our products carousel and our ability to add and drag images here. In my example, this is going to kind of be the back of my business card, so it just gives them an idea of what the back is going to look like. You could have file upload also turned on this product, and they could upload the back image to you. So if they're using their logo or something of that nature, they can send you a copy of that. Now with customizable highlighted, we have a second column here for custom art. And we have an option, is the customization required or not? Most customers, this will be required. However, if the online design is pretty much set and they don't have to make any changes, maybe it's like a new store type sign and they don't want to change the text, you can make it not required so they can add it to their basket without going into the designer. However, if it needs something like their name or their phone number, like we're going to build or look at here on this business card, it's best to have the customization required. If I click my option for online designer, now your button might be different if you haven't started your artwork. It might tell you to create your design. Oh, I did my dimensions the wrong way. Let me fix that really quick. There we go. I've already started building out my template, but of course we could add more to it. So what I've done is in the corner of where their logo is going to go, I have added their logo by uploading an image here on my toolbar. I've also locked it, meaning that I can't change the position of it, but also that means the customer can't change the position of it. However, if I do need change that position, I can unlock it and I can kind of move it around or move it into to where it should be if I need to make some adjustments. When uploading a picture, you'll see that we have on our design tab, you'll have a label which will help us in the drop-down list. If we have multiple images, it'll tell us which image that's attached to. We also have our placement options. So these are kind of just nudge features. You can move them up, move them down to the left or right. You can also increase or decrease the size. Now do be careful because obviously you could skew the image and it could get a little blurry or a little bit pixelated if you're using these options. And then order is my front and back options. So what position do I want that in compared to things that I might be overlaying next to it. Then if you want to get really specific, we do have some tools here for you to get a little bit more specific on the size and the position of that image. Also most common, we have text boxes. Text boxes are pretty common when talking about the online designer as well. You will notice that I have these locked as well. I do have this one unlocked so we can look at kind of moving that around. But just note that if it's unlocked for you here, it's also unlocked for the customer on the store as well. So definitely think about it. If they're not supposed to be changing that position, we highly recommend you lock those down. When we are looking at our text options here, we have that same label option that tells us what this particular item is. So it's really helpful when you're looking at your list. I have 4 text fields on this and I can easily tell which one goes to which field. Now when we are talking about text boxes, you do have a choice and type of format. I am doing the most generic, which is just text. This supports all alphanumeric and symbol type characters. However, you could get the Twitter format, you can get an email format. There's a lot of phone number formats in here. You can lock it down to where it's only alphabet, only with spaces, only alphanumeric. So there's a lot of choices in here for different formats that you might be encountering while building text boxes. In the case of maybe a not required uh, online designer, you might enter some default text. So if this is the position is always customer service representative or something like that, you could go ahead and have it filled in, but you can still give them the ability to override it if for some reason their title is slightly different. Here's our label option, which helps us identify what text box we are dealing with. Label is also really important for the customer experience. The customer experience will mostly be working on this quick text list tab. So that label also repeats here so the customer knows which text box they are entering their data into. Hint gives us the background that we're seeing here on the screen with enter name. It also gives the customer the hint here of what you are asking for in that field. They don't have to be the same. And then you have your option here to allow text editing while locking all other properties. That means they can't change the color, position, size, anything else, but they can come to that quick text list and they can change what is entered into the box. And then for most text boxes, this will be a valid option, show in quick text list, just meaning that they can come in and they can change that text. Now, I don't have Office phone showing in that list because this is a label. And so I don't need them changing that field. So I would exclude that from the quick text list. We give you some basic styling options. So is it a fixed area? Do you want it to text wrap, stretch automatically based on the text they enter? What fonts do you want them to have access to? Right now we have this open, but we'll look at some permissions here in a minute that will lock that down for us. What pixel size should this be? And you can increase that or decrease it. You can play with the spacing in between the letters. And then you have your basic bold, italic, underline options. You have your all caps option. You have your left, center, and right, top, middle, bottom options as well. You can choose or define what the text color is. Again, we're looking at all options right now, but we will look at a permission that will help us limit that here in a second. And you have those placement options we were just talking about on the image. So you can nudge it in any direction you want. You can increase the size. You can increase or decrease or move forward, move back the position compared to something else. Or you can get very specific with your positioning options. The two that we're displaying on the screen, the images and the text boxes, are the most common features used within the Online Designer. However, you do have some other options available for you on your toolbar. So we have some basic shapes, a line, a circle, and a square. Mostly these are just geometric shapes that you would draw on the screen. And then you have a label option, some fill options as far as what should those colors be. You have a border option, and you can move that around or nudge it into a certain place. There we go. Just make sure I got that removed. You have your upload picture option, which will allow you to add things like our logo here. And I will add that label back and lock that so we don't keep messing with its position. The file upload has a click and drag option. You can choose a file. We do have some basic rules. Try to make sure it's under 30 megs. It's JPEG, GMP, EPS, or a single file PDF. Options. We don't want uploading of large files here because it needs to be able to be compressed and sent to the Controlled Documents tab. We have our basic text option, which is what we looked at here with the phone numbers and the name fields on here. And then we do have an advanced text option, which we call merge. Our advanced text option here with the merge is very helpful for particularly industries where you're going to have a large block of text on your design and they need to make changes or edits in the middle of that text. My most common example is maybe a real estate sign where there's kind of maybe some text at the bottom, but they need to swap out what company they work for or what their address or phone number or agent name is. If you look at it, it'll start pretty similar to the original text field. You'll have your label to tell us what merge field we're dealing with. You have some text, a text box here. What you will start doing is you'll start typing your larger block of text, and then you'll get to a point where you need a merge field. This is for agent, and then we need to enter a name. And that's where our merge fields come into play. So now we get to choose, is this a text? Is it a phone number field? What is that type of field? We're going to give it a label. This label has the same function on the quick text list. It's going to tell us what we are entering here. It's also going to be representative for us here so we know what that merge field should be. If there is a default text, you can enter it. And then you have the option, if they happen to leave this blank, what do you want to do with the spacing? Do you want to trim it off or do you want to leave it? Once you've given it a name, you'll notice that there's a little merge field here with two squiggly brackets, the name, and then it closes. But there's also a copy button right here. So you don't have to type that. Just click that copy button and come back up to your large block of text and insert that name field. Now you can collapse this and you can keep adding merge fields. So if I needed to add a phone number and an address, I could keep going and I can keep making my large text blocks fit into the requirements that I need. You have your same styling options, your font size and spacing options. So, this would probably usually be pretty small if it's going to be a large block of text. Now, that doesn't make a lot of sense here on our business card, but we'd want to kind of maybe put like some terms and conditions or contact us type stuff at the bottom. You have your bold, italic, underline, caps, your alignment options, your color options, and your placement options as well. You may have seen me use it earlier. We have our undo and our redo buttons. So if you do something by mistake and you need to undo it or re-add it, you do have those options. We have our delete button as well. It will delete whatever field is forward facing. So right now it's going to delete our merge block for us because we don't need that anymore. Next option on our toolbar is our preview button. So if we click on that, we'll get an on-screen preview of our design. Then we have our print option, which is just going to be kind of like our PDF proof option. Now, the inner name and position and the phone number aren't populating because we didn't actually enter any text into those fields. So those were just hints, and they're not printing. So we're really only seeing the two static options at this point. And then the last option on our toolbar is our permissions gear. Permissions are based on each product, so you can have different rules for different stores and for different images depending on what you need it to do. Most people, their permissions will stay pretty consistent, but we do give you the functionality to change that per image. These are rules as far as what the end user can do. You as an admin will always have all the permissions available to you, but you can pick and choose what your customer can do. So can they add shapes? Can they add text? Can they upload images onto the designer? This is separate than the file upload option. Can they preview, which would be the eye up here? Can they download the PDF, which is the print copy here? I would usually have that disabled unless I have the watermark applied, just because you don't want them printing kind of a not print quality proof and then kind of passing that off as something that you've done for them. Also, just kind of don't want to give them free artwork, I guess. Then you have the show quick text list. I would pretty much recommend this always being checked as long as you are using text boxes. Can they use the stretch mode? Can they add the, or will you have a watermark on your image? And then can the customer view the canvas dimensions? The canvas dimensions is dependent on the width and height from the product attribute tab, and in coordination with any bleed you might have applied to this. So in this case, I have a 1/4 inch bleed all the way around, and that is represented by this red line. So it's giving me the space of where my bleed line is. It will also see that it is increasing my dimension size. So I'm 3 by 5 on the product attributes, but I have an extra 1/2 inch on each side for my 1/4 inch bleed. If you don't want to bleed, just zero out these fields and that red line will go away. The only dimensions they'll see on screen are the physical dimensions from the product attribute tab. Then I can control what fonts and what color groups they have access to. So right now they're seeing all the fonts I have loaded in the system and all the colors I have loaded in the system. Now, one thing I will note here before we start making changes is it's best to make these decisions before you add all your text boxes and options to your canvas. The reason being is if you start building something and say it's an Arial, but then I'm not adding a font group that has Arial in it, the text boxes will have issues rendering. So you'll want to make sure at least Arial is temporarily enabled. You can go change all your text boxes and then come take Arial away as a permission. Same way with colors when dealing with text boxes or text colors. You don't want to have a color on there and then take it away, and because it'll have issues rendering that piece of the design. But I can say maybe I want to limit this font group just to my limited group instead of my standard group. I can add it to my list. I can remove standard. And now all they'll have access to are these 4 fonts if I give them the permission to make their own text boxes or to make edits to what I've pre-built for them. Same way with colors. I can come in here, I can define a color group, I can define certain colors I want to give them access to. And this would be dependent on whether or not they can see the design tab and what permissions I've given them here to add to that canvas. Most customers will only use the quick text list if every element on the screen is locked, like we talked about earlier. They will see the design tab, but they won't be able to do anything on the design tab. So it will be grayed out for them, similar to how we looked at this before we unlocked it. I can't make any changes here. I can't do anything to it. So most customers, the quick text list will load for them first, and they won't try to come into this tab. But if we do have people ask about it every once in a while, we can't hide this tab from them because you could have something unlocked like phone number. in which case I could make changes here because I haven't locked that one down yet. But most customers, we don't see them going over to that tab. They really just come in here, fill in the fields that are relevant to them, and then they finish their design and submit it to you. That concludes today's video on the admin side of the online canvas and the images and image carousel section. If you have any additional questions, please join us on the e-commerce Q&A session or email us at ecommerce@sirius.com. Thanks and have a great day.